Welcome to TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight. The purpose of this podcast is to provide you with a candid conversation about our energy needs, our energy security, and your energy future. Texas oil and natural gas have made our nation the world's energy leader, constantly innovating and investing to fuel the economy, protect the environment, and power the world. This industry is fast-paced, high-tech, and essential to improving modern life. And we're here to talk about it. You're listening to TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight. Welcome back to another edition of TXOGA Talks, where energy does meet insight. I'm glad to be joined today by co-host Shana Joyce, Vice President of Government and Regulatory Affairs at TXOGA. How are you, Shana?
I'm good. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. You know, back on September 23rd, I think it was, TXOGA held our 5th Energy Elevated, which is a technology showcase, and you were the mistress of ceremonies at that event.
That's right. We've hosted quite a few Energy Elevateds at this point, but it's a chance for different technology companies to present to our member companies about the different technologies that are really transforming the oil field, like from anywhere from emissions reductions to satellites that are kind of looking at where emissions might be headed, to also we had some security this year, which was company coming and talk to us, which was becoming a really big deal in the oil field. So it was a really great conversation with definitely very cool vendors.
Well, as I've said many times, modern day oil and gas companies are actually innovation and technology companies
Absolutely.
today. And this showcase very vividly demonstrates that. We had a special occasion this time because we were very honored to have Chairman Giovanni Capriglione to be with us and to have a conversation about something that every listener today probably talks about on a daily basis now. And I'm going to let you guess what that was.
Artificial intelligence.
AI is something we're all talking about. We recorded that episode of that conversation with Chairman Capriglione. And so we have a treat for our listeners today, and we'll be right back after we share that interview. We're in for a real treat today. We have Chairman Giovanni Capriglione with us today, a state representative from the North Texas area. What are some of the cities in your district?
Commissioner, thanks for having me. I have cities like Southlake, Keller, Colleyville, Grapevine, Westlake, and Euless in my district.
So he represents how many Texans roughly?
Almost 200,000.
Almost 200,000 Texans. Shana introduced him a little bit earlier today. He serves in many different leadership capacities. You were first elected in like 2012, something like that.
2013.
Is that right?
Yep.
2013,
Yep.
Your first session.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been through several legislative sessions. You've seen a lot of changes. And you're here with us today, really in your capacity as chairman on a select committee.
That's right.
And tell our audience the name of that select committee that you're chairing.
Sure. Speaker Dave Fielding created a special select committee. So I'm the chairman of the Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Technologies Committee.
So we wanted to introduce his committee and the work that he's doing. We looked for a video to kind of do that, and he happened to have an idea for us, and we want you to take a look at the screen here real quickly. Those are real scenes that we found. No. I think you get the idea, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about this video
Sure.
and kind of set the stage for what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. So if you look at this video, this is created by...
That's probably enough, Ethan.
It doesn't get better.
We actually found some videos we could not use today. They were not general audience
That's
appropriate,
right.
I'll tell you.
That's right. There's definitely worse. So this particular video was created by a couple of guys in Germany named the Door Brothers. And next week, October 1st, we'll be having our next AI Select Committee hearing. and one of the brothers will be testifying at our committee. And so one of the things he said about this video is, so when asked how long did this take to produce, and it's about 5 minutes long, and you can tell it's pretty realistic, right? He said it took him about 7 hours using off-the-shelf consumer grade software. And so then he was asked, okay, well, you're an expert at this. How long will it take the average person to do something like this? He said in about 6 months, it'll be a prompt that you'll be able to get this type of quality and this type of activity. And so we've seen, and I'm sure you have, that this is obviously a parody you don't think is true, but you can also tell how easily it will be to use these tools to be slightly different, to just be enough to change your mind or to make you think something that's not true, or worse, make you not believe something that is. And that's kind of some of the risks that we're working on in our committee.
That's very interesting. And you've got a committee hearing coming up soon that you can all tune into. When is that hearing going to be?
Sure. So October 1st at 10 o'clock, we have multiple, I think almost 24 different witnesses. We're going to be talking about the effect of AI on healthcare, how it's going to affect people's jobs. Obviously, folks like this. We'll be bringing in religious leaders to talk about how this maybe affects the ethics, the philosophy, maybe even the spirituality of some of the decisions that are going to be made. So I think it's going to be I'm biased, but I think it's going to be an incredible hearing. And so definitely tune in.
Well, and we are in the political season, right? So you see videos like this, it can influence voters. And it seems like to me, you're going to have a very difficult task ahead of you. Are you looking at not only how these technologies can be implemented in the various industry sectors, but are you looking at government's role in regulating this type of activity and the punishment for fraudulently promoting something is that's not true? How does that interface?
Yeah, this is more complicated than I thought it would be when I first started this. You saw how many folks here raised their hands when they said just one artificial intelligence tool. And so AI has been used and will continue to be used even more in every single industry and every single age group in every single country. And in one of our previous hearings, we brought in a group that focuses on creating disinformation and misinformation. And so I had let me be a guinea pig for their deep fake. And all they did was it takes milliseconds. Obviously a video takes longer, but in milliseconds, they just point to my LinkedIn and come up with a deep fake. And in my particular case, it was right there. They did it while we were in committee. They point to my LinkedIn. They know that I'm from Tarrant County, so they know the newspaper of record is the Star Telegram. So I do an absolute perfect version with the same font. Even one of the writers from the Star Telegram, and showed a picture of the town I live in, the city hall, and it said active shooter alert going on. Election has been delayed until tomorrow. Okay, it gave a quote from the governor, even did a quote from me saying everything's fine, wait till law enforcement, everything's been taken care of. And so you can imagine what sort of effect that will have, not on everybody, but on, let's say you do it to 10,000 cities all at the same time at zero cost, right? In close elections, which we're facing right now, this could be a problem. How do you stop it? In some cases, you're not going to, right? You have made laws plenty of times to try and direct people's behavior. But I think just as importantly is how are you going to react, and how are we going to be able to communicate so that we can at least in those types of situations let people know what the truth is.
Well, we all appreciate your work and that of your committee, because as the discussion has been this morning, there are many applications that we see in the energy space. We've had very innovative companies to come forward. And when I think about AI in the energy landscape, I think about efficiencies, I think about cost savings, quicker analyzation of the data in order to make these decisions. Do you see in the energy landscape that there's opportunities for this industry as well, and what that might look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I think whether you're talking about artificial intelligence or machine learning or cell phones, cloud, cybersecurity, all of that requires electricity to run, right? And in the case of artificial intelligence and maybe soon quantum computing to run some of that, we're looking at an insatiable thirst for energy. You had mentioned the statistic at the beginning on just searches on ChatGPT, how much more energy they're using. And what's likely to happen is the energy usage per search or through prompt that ChatGPT will go down, but people will be using it more, right? It's kind of like when you were saying, rigs down, production up, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to need that because not only do we need it obviously to run the GPUs and the computers and the hypercomputers and the supercomputers to run artificial intelligence, but people will want to use this more. I mean, people are going to find an application for it all the time. We always knew we use a little bit of electricity to go send an email, right? But just think about how much effort you're making to make sure that email is crafted right, okay, or that is checked, or that the formatting, or that outline for your presentation and your questions make sense. So we're starting to do really cool things, but every single one of it requires energy. And while I do think, thanks to TXOGA and others, that Texas is the best place when it comes to energy policies and opportunities, you can already see we don't have enough. Mm-hmm. Right, our desire and our needs are going to grow. When I think about Winter Storm Uri, when obviously we decided that we're going to do a lot of things differently, and that kind of gave us a head start. But that was before at least in my neighborhood, before all the EVs showed up, right? Uh-huh. That was before anyone ever heard of ChatGPT. And so just in the last 4 years, our predictions and our projections are completely different.
As you mentioned, our projections and predictions have changed. ERCOT made a presentation to a legislative body here, I guess maybe a month ago now, and they said the load demand was like 85 gigawatts in Texas today, 90 maybe, and it's going to go to 150.
Right.
And everybody was like, no way.
Right.
And now we have the conversation of maybe we don't want all of these things coming. That's a dangerous philosophy to me.
Sure.
I think we need to find ways to grow the pie bigger and everyone benefit from it, that economic development wise. But are y'all sensing and hearing some of these conversations in your committee?
I am, but I mean, since 2013, I've always heard the same message, which is Texas is open for business.
Right.
And for us to be open for business, we got to keep the lights on, okay? We cannot, and I'm obviously biased, but we cannot start telling companies to not come here before we start building what we need to get built. And there's a battle, and of course I'm a Texas state rep, and so Texas first, and all of that. But this is really a battle with the United States versus other countries all over the world, okay? And where we have the lead today when it comes to AI, when it comes to quantum computing, cryptography, cybersecurity, that lead comes because we have an incredible skill set in technology, okay? We have an incredible workforce, we have great universities, and so we have the brains and the people to lead. But China and other countries, but China specifically, they can build anything, anytime, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have the same restrictions that we do here in the United States. And you need both of those to win this battle. And so to me, I feel like Texas is the piece that the United States needs to be able to make sure we have those data centers, that we have the network to be able to compete. I mean, this is it. I'm not going to get there, hopefully, too much, because I always tend to go to the Terminator aspect of AI. But I mean, this is something that there is an arms race about. I mean, just think about how much smarter you come across using ChatGPT and how much more you can do with just a video. This is a multiplying effect. And we need to have the steel in the ground. We have to have the resources to be able to compete with energy as well.
Well, it is about infrastructure. You mentioned the Terminator. When Shield 360, Alert 360, when Enrique made his presentation earlier, they had a machine that could watch the side, and it started talking when somebody came up. Did anybody else think of Sylvester Stallone in Demolition Man when that happened? Remember when he got a little ticket for using some language he shouldn't have? I mean, it's amazing how rapidly technology is advancing. you're chairman of this committee. The legislature, the 89th session of the Texas legislature is going to start in January. Whether you're ready for it or not, whether you like it or not, right, they're going to convene. Are you working on legislation as a result? Can you give us a little preview of that, maybe?
Yeah. The thing about artificial intelligence is people call it a tool, and it is a tool, which means, as like all tools, the human's the problem. And so we got to come up with rules and laws and policies that can make sure that we put these guardrails around how these tools are used, just like we would in almost everything else. And so part of it is going to be creating an acceptable use policy for our state agencies, right? If you ask me what the most important thing we want to make sure when it comes to collecting this data, using this data, and then autonomously making decisions, we got to make sure that the government is doing things right. So that's one of the pieces we're working on. The second is to go and create a framework where our private industry, our private companies can use AI, develop AI, deploy AI, so that we don't overregulate, and that's not a Texas thing, right? We'll find ways to go and create these rules and laws so that companies can still be innovative, so that people will come here, but also make sure that some of the most of them, quite frankly, some of the most dangerous parts of AI are not done. So I'll give you some examples. So part of it is, if you think about it like a model, right? A risk-based model where, okay, no one cares about a chatbot on the website, right? And if it makes a mistake, well, that'll look bad on your company, but that's maybe not the role of government to go and say really much about the chatbot. But then there's some things that, whether it's this video being put, or videos like this that are used to go and create disinformation or misinformation or to negatively affect elections, we're going to have to talk about, at a minimum, disclosure and that sort of stuff. There's just these videos, while that's funny, child sexual abuse material is growing incredibly, right? People are using it today. On the dark web, you can get tools today that don't. There are things you can say to ChatGPT and it will say, I am not even going to answer that question. But those unfiltered, we call them jailbroken models, are available online. And so we've seen just an increased amount of child sexual abuse material that have been trained on real children. Okay, they've used the videos and the sounds and even the voices of children to go and create artificial abusive material. We're worried about things like social scoring, right? I don't want to worry that what I'm saying today will negatively impact my insurance rates, right? And it's something that you think is Minority Report, to think of another movie, but is already happening. We have concepts about law enforcement. For instance, I had, I think it was the guy who was the Dallas police chief for a hot second, but he came to our thing and talk about how they use something called Clearview AI. And so if, let's say, there's a scene of an accident or something, or there's a crime, and so they have the CATV photo, they don't know who it is. Again, the idea was, okay, well, let's try and find it. Let's see if anyone knows who this person is. Let's see in our criminal database. But today, Clearview AI, and this is being used in Dallas right now, has already scraped every single photo that you've ever put on the internet, and every photo your daughter has put on the internet. And it is going through that to find out and match. And we have Fourth Amendment issues, right? Like, at what point are we using AI in situations that affect our liberties, okay? And then between those, we don't ever want to do, and the who cares about chatbot, there's a big gray area. And that's the part where we're going to spend a lot of our time on.
Have you seen models anywhere else in the country that have, because I'm assuming there's going to be changes in the penal code and criminal responsibility for abusive use. Have y'all seen any models anywhere that gives you a good confidence level that you're going to find that right balance?
There have been, I have confidence because this is Texas, so I'm optimistic, but it's, there have been here and there, we'll call them, small bills, maybe that focus just on deep fakes or focus on one particular aspect of it. All the bigger models have essentially been overruled in every single state legislature. There's one today, the one last shot before we get to go, on Governor Gavin Newsom's desk that tries to regulate artificial intelligence. I think he has about 9 more days whether to decide to veto it or not. And the sense is that it is actually too broad and too much regulation for even Governor Newsom. Okay, and so
wait a minute, is that really possible? I don't
we're
know,
about to
based on
find
what I've
out.
seen.
Well, but I'll tell you what, if he signs it,
Yeah.
with the restrictions on there and the penalties that are on there, we better have that energy conversation quick because all those companies are going to come to Texas.
Right. Well, and I think that you as part of the legislature historically have done a thoughtful job. It's frustrating to some, it's too much for others, but Texas legislature really does embrace the business community and the solutions that can be developed because you're the ones that are out there using things. And we entertain guests from all over the world that come to Texas and they say, we have oil and gas and we want to know how to develop it. And I tell them you need to have a sound, consistent regulatory environment. Go to the Railroad Commission. That's a great model to start. And that's what you need to do. So in looking at this from a regulatory fashion, that's kind of where you're at, right? How do you advance new technologies, but also protect the public so that there's not abuses that are occurring?
Yeah.
Interesting, while we're sitting there thinking about regulation, I think about Texas state agencies. The Railroad Commission today, the volume of permits that they look at, we methane emissions today, our companies are trying to comply with not only regulations we have in the United States, but foreign customers and other countries that have different regulatory requirements. And so we're excited about this advancements, and that's why we're so appreciative of you being here today.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I know the Railroad Commission. In fact, part of the bill that I authored and we passed, House Bill 2060, besides creating a council to look at how state agencies are using it, was that there was a requirement for every state agency, is there like 200 or so state agencies, how all of them are using artificial intelligence today. And we had to define that. We didn't want, like spell check and all that kind of stuff. We wanted, hey, we're automatic decisions being made. And so their report just a couple of months ago was released, and our state agencies already have 700 software tools that are being used right now, and more are growing in the LAR requests to go and use that are using AI autonomously. Now, a lot of it is related to cybersecurity, right? There are attacks coming in. They're coming in faster than a human can ever get to them. So we're using AI to kind of fight those. We're using it for identity management. But it's also been cool to see some of the creative ways our agencies are doing it. And I would say as a taxpayer and all of us, I think those are some really good things. TxDOT, for instance, they do a lot of invoicing. Obviously, they pay, they get in. And I mean, tens of thousands of invoices at any given time. And it was taking about 3 weeks from beginning to end to fully go and do the invoice processing. Well, they've been working on an AI tool, and since they implemented it, it's able to take that time from 3 weeks of manual labor to 27 seconds. So just think about if you're able to do things like that in all of our government agencies, where we'll be able to not only maybe be more accurate, we'll be able to be more efficient, okay, which is better for all taxpayers. But I'll also tell you, have those folks do something maybe at a higher level, right? Rather than just take care of the invoices, now make sure that the person sent it was right and legitimate, or that the terms were being followed, right? So just like those rigs, it's not like people are being let go, right? I mean, we're just finding other things for them to do that are better.
I want to talk about that because I think that is an important, very important item to get the public acceptance to where this new technologies will lead us. And are we going to be able to use Slido and do questions as well, Shana? And are we going to be doing that? So if you all have questions, you can use Slido, and we're high tech here. Oh my goodness.
Okay. That's awesome.
27 seconds.
Yeah.
I used to run the Texas Department of Agriculture. I had a really smart team that ran it, and I was fortunate to work with them. I think about the weights and measures and what we did at the gas pumps. Everybody wants to make certain you get every ounce of gasoline that you pay for. The school lunch programs, billions of dollars are spent there, multiple vendors, and all the benefits that can happen can be amazing. That can be translated to the energy space as well.
Well, just think, because the part, and this is maybe a little bit of frustration, that I hear about when people say, oh, well, this is going to use more electricity and our grid can't handle it, whatever. But just think about how much electricity you may have saved, right? By doing that processing in 27 seconds instead of 3 weeks of people shuttling around and moving. If you look at what efficiency means, it also means effort and less waste for everybody. So another thing TXOGA is doing, for instance, is if you think about before Google Maps, there were these webcams on every single major highway, right? So you could go see if the traffic was bad on 635 before you went. But now they've repurposed some of those cameras. They're doing a pilot in Travis County. And so using AI constantly and continuously monitoring these cameras, they're able to go and see the second an accident occurs. Okay, so as soon as they see that collision, immediately send help. Send the tow truck, send whatever is needed to go help. Yeah. 5 to 10 minute savings already in traffic. Think about how much energy that's saving.
Make a difference in saving lives as well.
Saving lives as well, and getting people the help they need. That's great. So all of this is I don't want us to focus too much on that oh, this is going to use energy, electricity. It is, okay, but it's also going to make us more productive.
Well, and we can use that same technology for efficiencies in the generation of electricity and the transmission of electricity. I've seen a lot of vendors are talking about how to make the electricity on transmission lines just to be the conductivity flow better and to have a greater level of efficiency there. So lots to offer. I've got more questions, but I want to be sure and get any in from the audience. If you have, okay, still got them. I want to go back to workforce for a minute because my dad was a factory worker for 36 years. He worked shift work. Labor issues were very important. So there are many people that feel like this is going to displace workers. And so have y'all had any conversation about that in your committee and some thoughts there?
We've had, I think, quite a bit. I mean, if you think about what you tell someone who wants, like, let's say you have a child who wants to go study for a degree, you're going to have to spend some time thinking about, what the right investment is on that, right? There are a lot of jobs that are going to significantly change. And so there's a different skill set that we're all going to have. I'm not sure. I mean, some people will say that there'll be net positive jobs, there'll be net negative jobs. I don't know that. But if you think about, for instance, traditional white collar jobs, like let's say a doctor, for instance, and that's why we're bringing the healthcare folks in. I mean, in a lot of ways, there's opportunities for doctors to be more accurate, right? To be able to, let's say you go in for a radiological exam, and you have the radiologist who now, by using a computer, not replacing them, but by using them, is now able to detect breast cancer, let's say months or even years earlier than before. I mean, that's not getting rid of the radiologist, it just makes them better. There are some jobs, though, where I do think that computers in a short amount of time will be able to do just as good of a job. And so the jury's still out. Well,
Greg and I had a great conversation, and he brought up Henry Ford, and how the assembly line impacted employment, but the world grew, the economy grew, opportunities grew for people. Sure. And I think that's the way we have to look at this. Yeah. Similar to the greater energy demands, this is going to afford more opportunities to be creative and to find new ways in life. Yeah. And I see we have quite a few questions, in fact, here. Oh, wow. I just noticed one that's real tiny font for a guy like me.
I can't read it at all.
I know, yeah. I see one, though, about state agencies and technology, and it makes me think about the budget and the cost associated with that. So your colleague, Greg Bonin, is chairman of House Appropriations. It might be good to have a conversation with him about properly allocating some resources to get the right technology, because permitting is just key, right? I mean, the quicker we can turn permits around, quicker you can get projects done, that means greater return on investment, more capital investment.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. I mean, so passports, okay, if you just want to go to passports, right? I mean, it's probably mostly what Congress does, right? Was trying to help people get their passports in time. So they finally have gotten online, right? If you think about how difficult it is sometimes, or it was, to be able to get LLCs formed or to get, UCC filings and all of that kind of stuff. The faster we can get companies going, the the faster they start making money. And I think that AI, properly used by our state agencies, properly vetted, making sure they're secure, making sure that they're reliable and fair, I think will be an incredible boon to Texas. And the faster we implement that, to your point, I have talked to Chairman Bonin about some of these things. I know there's a lot of LAR requests that talk about AI, but the faster we can do that here in Texas, the faster we'll see those efforts be useful.
That's good. If anybody gotten their passport renewed, isn't that great to think about how technology could expedite
Why can't you
that?
just do that automatically?
Yeah. That's an exciting time. AI being talked about, streamline the permitting process. I think we spent some time there. How will education changes affect young people?
Yeah, so we're having a lot of conversation about how AI is being used in school. And so there's a few different ways to look at that, which is how, if you have a child, and so I'll tell you about, I was working with my daughter on her physics homework, and she doesn't care. I mean, she just takes a picture of the word problem and she has the answer. It's that simple.
This is a guy who has a degree in physics,
yeah,
right?
I do.
So
I thought I was going to help her, but she's already got the answer before I even read the problem. It's that simple. And so if you're a teacher, I mean, how are you going to be able to do that? If you're a teacher, you can use artificial intelligence, though, to develop really good, interesting curriculums. In fact, you can make them pretty adaptive, right? We're all, if you don't already have a digital twin, there will be several of you. And just think about getting custom learning, right? In the voice that would be the best, the types of problems that knows where you're struggling and the exact type of feedback that each student needs. So there's opportunities there. One of the bigger complaints we get a lot is that we always come up with these ideas and these mandates on teachers and on administration in school, and they're spending a lot of time. They have a lot of administrators doing the paperwork, doing the grading, the scoring, or even the attendance or what have you, compliance. Well, AI can probably do that too, right? So it releases a burden and a lower cost there. And so that's how it might affect the youth, but they're also going to have to, they're going to have to learn how to thrive in an environment where they don't really have to know much, right? I mean that in the nicest possible way, but you really could pass the MCAT today with technology, right? I wouldn't want that person to operate on me or someone I know.
That's a good point. I have two nephews that are physicians, and one of them just would record his lectures and then listen to them at time and a half speed.
Sure. And
I'm like, don't miss anything there.
Right.
That's important. That's very important.
The one thing you forgot.
We had 6 companies that all made terrific presentations today, and how the adoption of this technology is going to really be a game changer as you think about the global environment that we live in today. I mean, oil is traded on a global basis. Things that happen in the Middle East and that Russia's invasion of Ukraine affect what we do. One of the questions here that I see is, how can industry work with regulators to better, more rapidly adopt technologies that are available in the field? And so I think that's a really good maybe way to, what's some advice to companies here today who may have these technologies that they know can be utilized to advance the regulatory process? Any thoughts on how to get that introduced?
Sure. I mean, first of all, just talk to any state rep, right? And who will probably talk to me at some point, right? Because this is my mission, right? I mean, if you just think about, I remember at the Railroad Commission talking about some of their old database programs, right? That for the longest amount of time took a long time for you to be able to do what you wanted. And everyone says, well, it's working, it's this old code. Well, there's this whole new concept called code transformation, where before you had to go hire a firm to go rewrite the whole entire thing, start from the brass tacks. But now, so what if it's in Fortran? The whole purpose of a large language model is it can speak any language, including computer programming. So it can take all those old programs, all those old database, mainframe, and all of that, and convert it into a business document that you can read. Say, oh, that's what we did 40 years ago. Oh, let's change this and that. Then you edit it, and then you go and turn it into Java or Python or whatever the new application is. And what I would say is if there are problems that you see where an agency is taking too long to invoice or taking too long to permit, with the tools that we have, the sky's the limit in terms of what we can do. Mm-hmm. And we can break down those barriers. It's to the point where compliance is being done now using artificial intelligence, and compliance checks are being done with artificial intelligence. And so that whole portion, let's say, of a lot of bureaucracy and work that companies would spend a lot of time on is going to be done automatically. Mm-hmm. And whether it's going to appropriations and asking them to do a pilot or to just go and deploy certain AI tools, we can do anything. We just need help in terms of where exactly to focus on.
And that's great advice. And your state rep is a great example. Many state agencies are begging for this information as well. They want to improve their game because they have to go stand before appropriations, ask for these dollars. And so if there's ways to find these efficiencies, I think it could benefit everyone.
Yeah. We just need to know what the pain points are. There's so many of them.
Right. No,
be specific.
Right. That's right. That's for sure. Folks, we've been very fortunate to have today the state's leader in the space of artificial intelligence, where this is going, how it can be better used to improve our lives. Let's give a round of applause to Giovanni Capriglione.
Thank you.
Any last comments here today?
Well, if you do get a chance, October 1st is our hearing.
And you can go online.
You can go online and you can watch that off of our website. But I guess in closing, we're an incredible, this is right now, this is going to make the internet look like nothing, right? The opportunities that we all have for ourselves, for healthcare, for everything is great. But what I will say in closing is don't believe anything you see. Anyway, all right. Thank you.
Good advice. Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Good to see you.
The Texas oil and natural gas industry is a global leader in the responsible production of energy that has powered life for more than a century. Always proactively innovating, Texas operators are committed to working in collaboration to develop our state's natural resources while improving environmental performance. To better assess the issues of methane emissions and flaring and develop industry-led solutions, a voluntary coalition of companies and organizations have joined together to form the Texas Methane and Flaring Coalition. Working collectively, the coalition's mission is to identify and promote operational and environmental recommended practices to minimize flaring and methane emissions. To learn more about the coalition's work, visit texasmethaneflaringcoalition.org. Well, I really enjoyed that conversation with you and Chairman Capriglione. I'm very grateful that he is head of this committee and is looking at all these different things that really will impact our state and public policy and the people of Texas. And I think he's really, really thoughtful about it, and I'm really grateful for that.
Well, the committee and the chairman are digging in, and it's going to make a difference in all of our lives as this, we're always inundated with new technologies. Mm-hmm. How are they going to fit in society? How do we have responsible usage of it without diminishing the entrepreneurial spirit that's built Texas and that's built America? We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Shana, it's always good to join you.
Absolutely.
It's great to have Chairman Giovanni Capriglione. You ought to look him up on Facebook, social media, X, all the other venues. Most of all, we appreciate you being an advocate and being an intelligent voter. So thank you for joining us today for another episode of TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight.
The views expressed on this podcast are not intended and should not be construed to be the views of any particular TXOGA member or company. The purpose of this podcast is to engage in candid conversations about energy needs, energy security, and the future of energy.